My alien mistress dragged me into her bed, and every night became another sinful war. The war ended faster than anyone expected, and slower than anyone hoped. Human ships burned in orbit like dying stars, and the silence that followed felt heavier than the fighting. When the last transmission cut out, Commander Elias Rourke was already preparing himself for execution. He stood in the shattered command hall of the flagship, hands bound, uniform torn, blood dried on his collar. He did not kneel. That was the first thing she noticed. The alien warlord entered without ceremony. She was tall, armored in living metal that shifted with every step. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and old. This was Violia of the Ash Dominion, called Mistress not as a title of pleasure, but of command. Entire systems had fallen at the sound of her name. She studied the human commander as if he were a puzzle left unfinished. Most conquered leaders begged, some screamed, some cursed. Elias did none of these things. He met her gaze, exhausted but steady, and waited. "You are the one who held my fleets at the Helix line," she said, her voice calm, translated by the air itself. "With inferior ships and broken supply chains." Elias said nothing. "You lost," she continued. "Yet you do not look defeated." "I am," Elias replied. "But humanity isn't finished." A flicker passed through her expression. Interest, not anger. Instead of ordering his death, Violia invoked an ancient custom of her people, the bed accord. It was a ritual older than her empire, used when a conquered enemy proved worthy. The human officers watching did not understand it, only that their commander was being taken away alive. Elias was brought to chambers deep within the alien flagship. The room was vast, dimly lit, filled with shifting symbols carved into the walls. At its center was a platform, wide and smooth, neither soft nor hard. This, he learned, was the bed. Not a place of rest, but of confrontation. The mistress explained the rules plainly. Each night, the conquered champion would share the chamber with the victor. They would speak, argue, test one another. Lies were forbidden. Violence was forbidden. Yielding was expected. Elias understood quickly this was domination through closeness. Break the mind, and the body followed. The first night was quiet. Violia watched him from across the chamber as if waiting for something to crack. She spoke of her empire, of order, of how chaos was the natural state of lesser species. She listed the reasons humanity had failed: poor unity, emotional leadership, reckless hope. Elias listened. When she finished, he spoke. "You won because you were stronger," he said, "not because you were right." She tilted her head. "Strength decides what is right." For a while, Elias said, that was the first sin. Among her people, questioning strength was heresy. Yet instead of ending the ritual, she leaned forward, asked him why humans fought even when the odds were hopeless. "Because giving up means becoming what you want us to be," he said. "Quiet, useful, forgotten." The nights continued. Each evening, Violia changed tactics. She spoke of mercy as weakness. Elias spoke of mercy as strategy. She described obedience as peace. He described it as stagnation. They debated battles, real and imagined. She showed him simulations where humanity was erased. He showed her scenarios where small human choices unraveled vast empires. She noticed something unsettling. He was learning. Elias paid attention to her pauses, her phrasing, the moments where tradition spoke louder than reason. He learned her limits, not physical ones, but cultural ones. Rules she could not break without losing face. Doctrines she followed without questioning. He never insulted her, never raised his voice. He treated every exchange like a battlefield, calm and precise. On the seventh night, she tested him. She brought another alien into the chamber, a defeated rival commander from a rebellious sector. According to Ash Dominion law, the being should be erased, mind and memory alike. Violia asked Elias what he would do. "Execute," she expected him to say, or beg for mercy. Instead, Elias asked, "What happens if you spare them?" "They will remember defeat," she said. "They may rise again." "And if you erase them," he asked, "they will be gone." "So will everything they knew," Elias said. "Every lesson you could learn from why they rebelled." Violia stared at him. No one had ever framed mercy as intelligence before. She dismissed the rival alive but bound. The watching attendants whispered in shock. Another sin. That night, Violia did not speak for a long time. She realized that the ritual was no longer one-sided. The human was not weakening. He was adapting, turning every attempt at control into a shared vulnerability. Beyond the chamber, the Empire felt the shift. Orders were delayed. Decisions reconsidered. Advisors grew uneasy. The human commander, officially a captive, was changing the Mistress without firing a shot. Elias knew the risk. One mistake, one step too far, and he would die. But he also knew something she did not yet fully understand. Humans were dangerous not because they were strong, but because they refused to stay what they were told they were. On the 10th night, Violia asked him a question she had never asked anyone. "If I had found your world first," she said, "before war, would you have joined us?" Elias answered honestly, "No." "Why?" "Because you would have asked us to stop being human." Silence filled the chamber. That was when she realized the truth. The bed accord had failed, or perhaps it had worked too well. She had brought a human into her most sacred place to break him. Instead, she had invited a war she did not know how to end. And this was only the beginning. The nights no longer felt like captivity. They felt like preparation. Elias noticed the change before anyone else did. The guards outside the chamber stood farther back. The attendants spoke less. Violia's steps, once sharp and absolute, now carried pauses. The empire was still hers, but it was no longer simple. The bed had become a place of plans. Not maps on the walls, not glowing projections, but words layered on words. Ideas tested like blades. Every night Violia brought new problems, rebellions on the edge of her territory, supply lines stretched thin, species that obeyed out of fear but offered no loyalty. Elias listened, then he asked questions. "What happens if your commanders die?" he asked one night. "They are replaced," she answered. "With equals," he pressed, "with those who obey best." Elias shook his head slowly. "That's why you keep fighting the same wars again." She bristled at that. "Explain." "You train your people to follow," he said. "We train ours to think. When a human commander dies, the fight doesn't stop. Someone else steps up. Different ideas, new risks." "Chaos," she said. "Survival," Elias replied. She did not argue. She thought. Outside the chamber, the Ash Dominion felt strain. A border fleet failed to respond fast enough. A rebellious world held longer than expected. Advisors blamed delays. Violia blamed herself, though she did not yet know why. One night, she brought him a choice. On a distant colony, a human population had survived the invasion by hiding underground. They had no ships, no weapons worth mentioning. By Dominion law, they were to be erased to prevent future resistance. Violia told Elias this without emotion. She watched him carefully. "If I spare them," she said, "they will see weakness." "If you erase them," Elias replied, "you prove every fear we have about you was right." She asked the question she had avoided for weeks. "What would you do?" Elias did not answer quickly. "I would let them live," he said. "Not because they deserve mercy, but because one day they might choose to stand with you instead of against you." "Why would they?" she asked. "Because you didn't have to spare them," he said. The empire had never worked that way. Loyalty was forced. Peace was silence. Violia gave the order. The colony lived. The reaction was immediate. Her council protested. Generals questioned her resolve. Some whispered that the human had poisoned her mind. Others feared something worse. Change. Violia felt the pressure but did not break. Instead, she summoned Elias earlier than usual the next night. "You are dangerous," she said plainly. "I've been told," Elias replied. "You undermine what I am," she said. Elias met her gaze. "No, I show you what you could be." That night, the war changed. Human space, shattered and scattered, began to receive strange signals. Supplies appeared where none were expected. Patrol routes shifted. Attacks that should have come never did. Someone inside the empire was slowing the machine. It was not mercy. It was calculation. Elias did not command fleets. He had no authority, but his ideas moved faster than ships. Violia began testing them quietly, giving commanders freedom to adapt, allowing local leaders to decide rather than wait for orders. Some failed. Some succeeded wildly. The results frightened her. The Ash Dominion had always believed itself perfect. Now it was improving. That was when the council acted. They accused Violia of corruption, of violating sacred law, of allowing a conquered species to influence the throne. They demanded Elias' execution and the end of the bed accord. By tradition, the Mistress could refuse, but refusal meant civil war. Violia returned to the chamber for what she knew might be the last time. "They will kill you," she told Elias. "I know," he said. "They will remove me," she continued, "or worse." Elias studied her. "Then don't choose between us," she frowned. "Explain. Choose humanity," he said, "and choose yourself." For the first time, she laughed, not softly, not kindly. "You ask me to betray my empire." "No," Elias said. "I ask you to redefine it." The next day, Violia stood before the council and did something no mistress had ever done. She told the truth. She spoke of stagnation, of endless wars that changed nothing, of fear disguised as order. She declared the bed accord complete and released Elias not as a prisoner but as an envoy. Gasps filled the hall. She named humanity a tested species, scarred, defeated but unbroken, worthy of choice. Some council members called for her death, others hesitated. That hesitation was enough. The Empire did not collapse, it shifted. Elias was returned to human space aboard a ship marked not with chains but with symbols of truce. He carried no threats, no demands, only a message. Humanity was not finished, and it was no longer alone. Violia watched the ship leave. She felt loss, relief, fear, and something close to hope. She had dragged a human into her bed to break him. Instead, she had learned how wars truly end, not with domination, but with change. The return of Elias Rourke did not feel like victory. Human space was quieter than before the war, filled with broken stations, empty orbits, and worlds still counting the dead. When his ship crossed the boundary and powered down its weapons in open trust, many expected betrayal. Some expected a trick. No one expected what actually followed. Elias did not arrive as a hero. He arrived as a reminder. He spoke to councils, to surviving admirals, to planetary leaders who had learned how fragile safety really was. He told them the truth. Humanity had lost the war. Their fleets were gone, their defenses were weak, but they had gained something rare. Time. The Ash Dominion did not attack, patrols stayed back, borders softened, trade signals appeared where only threats had existed before. The galaxy was watching to see what humans would do next. Some wanted revenge, some wanted isolation, some wanted to rebuild quietly and hope the stars forgot them. Elias argued for none of these. Hope is not a plan, he said again and again, and fear is not survival. Humanity chose a harder path. They rebuilt differently. Instead of one great fleet, they built many smaller ones. Instead of central command, they trained local leaders. Civilian engineers worked alongside soldiers. Scientists shared openly instead of hiding knowledge behind ranks and clearances. The war had taught them a brutal lesson. Strength alone failed. Adaptation did not. Across the stars, Violia watched. Her empire was changing, slowly and painfully. Some systems resisted. A few broke away. There were riots, failed coups, assassinations narrowly avoided. Each time she refused to answer chaos with extermination. That choice made her enemies bold and her allies uncertain. But it also made something else happen. Worlds began to speak. Not with rebellion, but with demands, with ideas, with loyalty that was chosen, not forced. The Ash Dominion was learning what humanity already knew. Control was fragile, belief was not. The first true test came 3 years later. A threat entered the galaxy from beyond mapped space. Not a conquering empire, not a rival civilization, but something older and colder. Autonomous war machines, self-repairing, self-directing, left behind by a long-dead species. They did not negotiate. They did not adapt socially. They consumed systems to fuel endless expansion. The Ash Dominion lost 3 fleets in silence. Human outposts vanished without warning. Panic spread faster than any signal. Violia sent a message to human space, not as a ruler, not as a mistress. As a warning, Elias received it in a half-rebuilt station above Earth. He read it once, then again, then he called for every channel humanity still had. "This is why we survived," he told them. Not to win the last war, but to be ready for the next one. For the first time, human and alien forces planned together openly. There was tension, old wounds, distrust. But there was also clarity. The enemy did not care who ruled which system. It would erase all of them equally. The machines advanced fast, faster than predictions. Faster than fear. Humanity's new doctrine was tested in fire. Instead of meeting the machines head-on, humans scattered. Small fleets harassed, withdrew, learned. They fed information back instantly. No command waited for permission. Every loss taught something. Every retreat was intentional. The Ash Dominion struggled at first. Their instincts demanded decisive battles. Violia overruled her generals again and again, forcing them to fight like humans, to fail and adapt instead of pushing harder until they broke. The turning point came near a dying star. Human scouts discovered the machines relied on predictable energy harvesting cycles. Ash Dominion scientists would never have noticed. They had never considered inefficiency as a weapon. Together, they set a trap. Human ships sacrificed themselves to lure the machines in. Ash Dominion weapons struck not at hulls but at power rhythms. The machines faltered. For the first time they slowed. The galaxy breathed. Victory was not sudden. It was earned inch by inch, system by system. Worlds burned, lives were lost, but the machines learned slower than those they hunted. When the last machine signal went dark, there was no celebration, only exhaustion. Elias stood on a viewing platform beside Violia as debris drifted into the star. Neither spoke for a long time. "You changed us," she said finally. "You let yourself change," Elias replied. Humanity did not become rulers of the galaxy, neither did the Ash Dominion remain what it was, something new formed instead. An understanding written in scars and survival. The galaxy learned a final lesson. Humans were not dangerous because they conquered. They were dangerous because they endured, because they adapted. Because even when dragged into defeat, into captivity, into another power's control, they carried their war inside them. And that war reshaped everything it touched. Peace did not arrive all at once. It arrived in pieces, uneven and fragile, carried on tired ships and careful words. After the machines were destroyed, the galaxy stood still, as if afraid to move and wake something worse. Elias Rourke felt that fear everywhere he went. Human worlds were alive again, but changed. Cities were rebuilt with open skies and layered defenses. Children learned history early, not to scare them, but to prepare them. Humanity no longer believed the universe was kind or fair. It believed only in effort. The alliance with the Ash Dominion was real but not comfortable. Joint patrols flew together, human ships smaller and sharp, Dominion vessels vast and powerful. Crews watched one another closely. Trust was not given. It was practiced. Violia ruled differently now. She no longer sat alone above all others. Councils argued openly. Commanders questioned orders. Some called it weakness. Others called it survival. Violia accepted both names. She and Elias met less often, but when they did, their conversations carried more weight than before. There was no ritual chamber now, no symbolic bed, only plain rooms and shared responsibility. "You made us visible," Violia said during one meeting, "to the galaxy, to ourselves." Elias did not deny it. "Visibility is dangerous," he said, "but hiding never saved us." The galaxy tested that truth quickly. New powers emerged where the machines had once ruled. Smaller empires, trade unions. Species that had stayed silent for centuries now sent messages, offers, warnings. Humanity and the Dominion found themselves at the center of something larger than war. They were no longer just survivors. They were examples. Not everyone liked that. A coalition of old Dominion loyalists and fearful minor powers formed quietly. They called themselves the Pure Order. They believed the galaxy needed certainty, not adaptation, control, not choice. To them, humanity was a virus and Violia was its carrier. The first attack came without warning. A human relay station was destroyed, no survivors. The message was clear. Elias stood before human leadership again, older now, lines deeper on his face. "This is not the old war," he said. "They don't want territory, they want the past." Humanity responded carefully. No grand fleets, no loud threats. Information flowed instead. Humans listened, watched, waited. The Pure Order expected rage. They got silence. Violia faced her own trial. Several Dominion worlds declared independence overnight, backed by Pure Order fleets. They demanded her abdication and a return to old laws. She refused. Civil war loomed. For the first time since the initial invasion years ago, Elias felt the weight of doubt. Had they changed too much, too fast? Had they broken something that could not be rebuilt? The answer came from an unexpected place. A small Dominion world, once known only for mining, refused the Pure Order. Not because Violia ordered them to, but because, during the Machine War, human advisors had helped them survive using local leadership and shared decision-making. They had tasted autonomy and chosen it. That world held, then another. Then a human colony sent aid, unasked, to a Dominion refugee convoy. Then a mixed cruise ship intercepted a Pure Order raid and drove it off using combined tactics neither species had used alone. The galaxy began to choose sides. The Pure Order struck harder. They burned cities, they broadcast executions, they promised safety in exchange for obedience. Humanity answered differently. They broadcast survival, stories of joint crews, of Dominion commanders who refused extermination orders, of humans who died protecting alien civilians. They did not hide losses. They shared them. Fear lost its grip. The final confrontation did not happen at a throne world or a capital system. It happened at a crossroads of trade lanes where many species passed and none ruled. The pure order gathered everything they had, believing one decisive blow would restore order. They underestimated one thing. No one was waiting for permission anymore. Human captains acted on instinct. Dominion commanders adapted mid-battle. Civilian ships ran rescue without orders. The pure order's rigid formations shattered under pressure they could not predict. When the fighting ended, their leaders were captured, not executed. They were tried publicly by representatives from many worlds. The sentence was simple. Exile, isolation, the same silence they once used as a weapon. Afterward, the galaxy did not cheer. It exhaled. Years passed. Elias stepped back from command. He became a teacher, then a writer. His words traveled farther than his ships ever had. He never called humanity superior. He called it responsible. Violia remained in power, but no longer as mistress. Her title changed to something harder to translate. It meant guide, not ruler. On a quiet station orbiting a blue star, they met one last time. "We survived," she said. "For now," Elias replied with a small smile. She studied him. "If I had killed you that first day," Elias finished the thought, "you would have won a war and lost the future." They stood in silence, watching ships move like fireflies against the dark. The galaxy was still dangerous. It always would be. But it had learned something vital. You could conquer a human world. You could drag a human into defeat, into captivity, even into another power's control. But humanity would always fight back in the same way. By changing the rules until survival became inevitable.